A very good day to you. Welcome to Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. My name is Jadel Kabira, ready for usual political conversations to build this country. Even as there are talks right now, President William Ruto met with President of Nigeria, Obasanjo, and together with Raila Odinga, the leader of Azimio, they had a conversation, talks before talks, on what the talks will be about. I'm here with Herman Manyora for a conversation, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
The country is heated politically, especially in Azimio, and you're looking at the situation now. These talks that happened. Kenya Kwanza says if there's a handshake, MPs telling the president, then we will not have anything to do with you. Some MPs there saying that. Azimio side, also you look at people like Robert Alai, they're coming out and saying, look, what is the stake? Why is Mount Kenya taking part in these talks? Yet they did not die as we did. This is according to one of his tweets. Look. And then there's also the conversation of cost of living. Where should it be initiated? Should it be part of this dialogue? Let's start with this. These talks that were there, should they have been between the Raila Odinga and Ruto before the meeting, or should they have come after?
No, it's good for them to meet because the bipartisan attempt failed badly because the two were not directly involved. Okay. So it's good for the leaders to meet, to put everything in motion. So that everybody can know this is serious. But
when you look at the conversation that is the main issue, according to Azimio, is the issue of cost of living. Yes. And you look at Kenya Kwanza, they're saying, look, we have a manifesto. This according to the president. We have a manifesto, and we're working towards building the cost of living. Why should we have a talk with you guys, and yet we're the guys that won? Yeah,
they have the manifesto, but manifesto, which is leadership, is always being negotiated. Yeah. You get power, you give your manifesto, you get power. In the course of implementing, people ask questions. What is so difficult to see? People ask questions.
But why?
People say, okay, fine, you said you'll do this, but you don't seem to be on the path. You don't seem to be doing it. Number two, even when you are doing it, the country is hurting. So the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, is it putting food on the table? That is the question. It's not.
But when you look at the situation of food in this country, let's just talk about basic commodities like unga, like cooking oil, some of which have gone down. If you go to the market, you will see that for sure they have gone down. So this means there's something that the government is actually doing. Does this mean we should not have this conversation? Azimio should at least let them do their work.
When something has gone to the level of pain that we have gone, tokenism never assists. Is always too little, too late. Nothing short of a dramatic change in the cost of the essential commodities will save the situation in the country. Nothing. It has to be a very, very dramatic, drastic move, noticeable from far. Just to use an example of three commodities. One, for the price of unga to get anywhere near being okay to Kenyans, it has to be reduced by about 50%. You got to get about 100, 120 shillings per 2 kg of maize flour packet. That's dramatic. That is really drastic change. For electricity to be anywhere near the meaningful range, acceptable range, it must go down by a minimum of 40%. Okay. Fuel, petrol, diesel should go down by a minimum of 25-30%. And that we can do without hurting our economy. So for them, we may hurt a few friends. We shall hurt a few friends, but we shall not hurt the economy. And least of all, we shall not hurt the people of this. Most of all, we shall not hurt the people of this country.
When you look at Azimio's side, there is nothing in particular that they have said for us to look at the cost of living going down. They haven't given even a framework to the Kenya Kwanza administration, at least publicly yet. Are they taking people for a ride because they haven't given people yet?
You can't rule out that. Politicians are just who they are. They may use anything for their own good. But I don't think reducing the price of commodities in Kenya, bring down the cost of living, I don't think it requires even an economist. You don't even need to be anybody very intelligent. Anybody can do it. I can do it for them in 2 hours' time. Yes, and bring down the cost of living by at least 20-25%.
Now let's talk about this this talks, dialogue. I was looking at a tweet from Robert Eli, and he was saying, look, Mount Kenya has taken a big role when it comes to the composition of this team that is going to represent Azimio la Umoja, saying when they mentioned, I think it's Eugene Wamalwa, Martha Karua was against it. When they talked about Kioni, President Uhuru has taken a big role in these talks. From someone who is more or less an insider in Azimio, Robert Eli coming and saying, look, Uhuru Kenyatta is more or less like Rigathi Gachagua. They all have a mission for Mount Kenya itself. Does this make sense for you?
You know, being Raila is very difficult. When Raila gives a Luo a position, people say Luos. When he chooses now to cede and give to other people, again, there is a problem. It is being Raila. Sometimes I sympathize with this old man. Being Raila is very difficult. Very difficult. For these talks, he could choose to go for the best and say the best is so and so, and they happen to be Luyas or Luos. But he could also be pragmatic and look at the configuration of the country and say, okay, if Martha Karua is in those talks, then we have somebody there we can rely on. She can stand her ground. And she's a Kikuyu. Then you put her there.
You think
but I don't know who is there. We are just speculating.
But do you think from the names given, they should be at least reciprocating the regions that were actively participating in protests?
No, everybody. Whenever there's a whenever there's a struggle, we all participate in our own ways. Some big ways, some small, but collectively. Look at Mau Mau, for example, the struggle for independence. Many people would want to see that it's Kikuyus who fought, Gema community. But is it really true? There are people who didn't lift a stone or an arrow. They didn't throw an arrow. They didn't have a spear. They never had a gun. But they made such a serious contributions without which perhaps the course of this country would not have been the same. Yeah. And they were not Kikuyus.
But when you look at now this...
But everybody want to believe the struggle for this country was done solely 100% by Kikuyus, which will be wrong. It's wrong. When the people are struggling, people say men went to fight. How would these men have survived in the forest, the Mau Mau, without the women who was cooking and smuggling food to them? But people just see it's men, it's Kikuyu men. No! Women, the story of the women is not told. They played a big role in the struggle of Mau Mau. So equally, not many people from Kirinyaga can come and throw stones or come and participate or do whatever it is. But Martha Karua can make a contribution much more than 10,000 of those demonstrators.
Why are these names so important? Why do they really matter? Because when you look at Robert Eli, and remember when we had the first conversation of the first team, you were saying there are some people who are actually shortchanged. They should have been in that team. Of course, they had a formidable team.
In politics, everybody will talk about shortchanging. Sometimes rightly, sometimes not rightly. The more important thing, if you ask me, and this is, I keep going for Raila and Azimio in terms of strategy. They are always poor. When it comes to negotiations, Raila and his team are always weak.
How so?
You see, this 10 is strategically meant to manage Raila. Because it limits him. For Raila, not the least would have been 7. Because he has a more diverse following to cater for than
Kenya
Kwanza. If Kenya Kwanza put there a Kikuyu and a Kalenjin, they are good to go. There are not many people will be complaining. Maybe one Luya. Nobody will be complaining. But Raila, if you look at Raila's votes, he collects votes from across the country, from 207. Kibaki just needed the central Mount Kenya region. Gema community. And just a splinking 1 or 2 here. But Raila must maintain his presence in coast, eastern, western, Nyanza divided into Kisii, Kuria, and Luo. For Raila, it is really hard. So the less the number, the more tough it is for Raila. Because before you even go to talks, it is about your soldiers. Can your soldiers believe in the process? Because it is soldiers who die. So when generals go to negotiate, they must convince the soldiers that there is something they were fighting for. And the mothers who send their children to war must also see there is sense in the process of negotiating for ceasefire and truce and what have you. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for Raila, And this is why I say they are weaker when it comes to negotiations. For him, he would have been seated on 7-7.
Are you saying
Let's stick to the 7-7. Because now look, you have only 2 outside parliament. First of all, they have already outsmarted him. Because this thing basically now remains a parliamentary thing. Because you get 8 from parliament out of 10.
Yeah.
Only 6 out of 10. Basically, it means it's more than 50% parliament. So he's been forced into parliament. I don't know whether you are seeing that.
I'm saying it.
More than that, the 2 he has outside parliament. How do you... He needed to have like 3 or 4 outside parliament. So he would have negotiated for 1 stuck with the original 7. He said because of the configuration of this country, anything below 7, we will get into trouble. So let us not negotiate about 7. They have to be 7. And you put your foot down. And then you tell people, this is not something on which you want to waste time. 7. And then out of the 7, a maximum of 3 would have come from parliament. So that 4 is from outside. But the way it is, the numbers make it very difficult for Raila to incorporate his followers fully, comfortably. And 2, the initiative remains a parliamentary initiative. So for Raila, he has already lost on that score.
What's the big deal if it's parliamentary? Does this mean that
this thing is too big
the
for
names from
this thing is
parliament
too
are
big
not
for
good
parliament.
enough?
The thing is too big for parliament. Finally, eventually, when the negotiations start, they'll keep going to parliament. And this is the intention of Ruto. They'll keep pushing everything to parliament. The best way would have been the Serena approach of 2008, where the things are processed elsewhere. And once the issues have been distilled and pulled down properly, then Parliament gives the legal cloth to the decision, the findings, what people have agreed on. But if you put this thing in Parliament, it will never get anywhere. It will keep going to Parliament. People will keep making reference to Parliament.
Yeah.
And yet it must be outside. So Raila has lost on the score of the number of people. He would have stuck to the 7. And number 2, he would have insisted that there is more from outside than from parliament. So at that level, he has already lost.
So talks before talks for him, he didn't negotiate well.
Well, he didn't.
Now,
and secondly, you can see even the issues discussed. Either he accepted, he agreed to those issues, only later to realize when Herman Manyora are questioning why did the people die, that they did wrong, or worse for them even, if they just agreed to talk and then they left there, then they issued some statement. They issued a statement, right?
Yeah.
As they were issuing a statement, were they not aware the other side will issue a statement? And if you had not agreed on the issues and your statement is silent on the issues, were you not aware they can put issues they connive, they think of? Everything shows these guys are not good negotiators.
So are we looking
because in their statement, they would have insisted that there are no issues already. That statement should have shown. Because it's an Azimio statement. Because we were also waiting for, they would have known the Kenya Kwanza statement will come. It will pull the people from under them. And that's what Kenya Kwanza did. Assuming these issues were not agreed on. There's every possibility they agreed on. Raila and Uhuru and Olusegun Obasanjo. But when people raised issues like in Manyora, by the way,
they had to delete that presser, that statement. But tell me, are we looking at that?
That was scary. You see, and again, you don't work like that. I think, there are many people around these leaders, not just Raila, including Ruto. Many of these people are useless people. And I have no qualms calling them useless.
That is my next question.
And I know them.
Are we looking at that Azimio of 2022, where the names that are supposed to lead, organize the secretariat, where we look at the Azimio, is it Building Bridges Initiative?
Yeah, they always lose.
To be the same thing.
And I've told them, even people like Raila, I've told them, you lose the moment you name your team. I just see this one, you have lost. The moment you sit down with Olusegun, Obasanjo, and Ruto, I can see you have lost. And the damage control is not helping. So you'll now drag the talks because of being a poor negotiator from the word go.
What do they mean?
And you lose when I look at the people you put in place. And many of these people surrounding these people, they are useless fellows.
But when you look at that...
Even legal teams, when you look at somebody's legal team, you can know they will lose.
Look at that team, that team before, yes. The dialogue, the bipartisan one, the likes of Otiende and Molo, that was a formidable team.
That was good. And I said it. For the first time, and I don't know how now they got it. And I think Raila was not the sole decider in this particular case. I think Kinamada Karua and Paranya and the rest must have participated. And look at the team. Otiende Omolo, Sifuna, Wambua, Mili. It can't get better.
But the team has been disbanded now.
It can't get better.
Yeah.
But what it was now lacking was a backroom team, a technical team. If they had a serious technical team, the talks would have continued. Kenya Kwanza would have been the ones on the receiving end. Yeah. Because they don't know how to negotiate.
Even that team that was brought by Kenya Kwanza that you absolutely...
Yes. First of all, if somebody brings you such a useless team, you dismiss it in a way, you just put them in a corner, they can't move. Yes. One side is weak in terms of negotiations, which is not good for the country. Not good for them, not good for the country. The other side knows the weakness of this side, and they are taking advantage of it. And not good for them, not good for the country. This other side also of Kenya Kwanza, they think they can be clever. And they are trying to be clever. Let me tell you, when the country is about to go on fire, don't try to play clever.
You think
because when the house finally burns,
yeah.
Everybody will know you are stupid, you are a fool, you are not clever.
Tell me though, what would be my win as a Kenyan, as an ordinary man? Because I really don't care what they negotiate up there.
Yes.
For Kenyans, what win would they get if these negotiations go as they're supposed to?
First of all, for Kenyans, and I want to be number one on the list of Kenyans, there should be peace. So the idea that they are talking or they are agreeing to talk, to me is something to celebrate. Because you need ceasefire for anything good to happen. However grand the ideas you have, if there's no ceasefire, if there's chaos and anarchy, nothing good can be done even that economic miracle we are talking about from Kenya Kwanza plan, it can't work in a state of anarchy. So this that they are agreeing to talk is a very positive. The issue surrounding the talks is normal. When people have been at war and they agree to talk, you don't expect them to meet smiling over a cup of tea and mandazi.
Yeah.
No. There will be all these people throw tantrums, they come up with impossible demands, people come up with hardened positions. It's part of the negotiations to make people climb down, to change positions, to agree on a certain list of issues. That's normal. Haggling over what issue, even where to sit, even who to be part of that's part of because negotiations don't come in a state of peace. They come because there's war. And you want to end the war. You get it?
Yeah.
So you cannot expect the people who have been fighting, although they have agreed to sit down, to come smiling with cups of tea and soda. No, these things are normal, all of them. But I'm only asking one side to stop thinking they can be clever. And the other side to try and pull up their socks.
Okay.
To be smarter. To always have a backup team. And that's where Raila also misses. You need a serious team. You see, when they had a handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta, Uhuru had the entire machinery behind him to navigate for him the handshake. Raila was solo. I know it. Yeah, I know.
You went in man solo.
Yeah. So, what Allah is saying, if it is true, if you are to buy into what some people like Amisi are like, and Babu Owino, not trusting Uhuru, assuming it is true. If it is true, this game would have been seen if Raila had a team. A team of sharp, intelligent men and women behind.
Then for those that doubt Uhuru's role in 2022 presidential election, should Raila at least let Uhuru leave the picture now that they are negotiating, just for the comfort of the likes of Babu? Should he leave the scene?
You cannot know. You can't necessarily follow what these other people are saying.
What's your advice?
Raila knows more than what all of us know. He's the one who went in this handshake. He knows what is in it. We can say Uhuru seems to have played Raila, but Raila is the one who knows.
But for the comfort of these ones that don't, you just leave them be, because this is the question that
how can you just how can Raila just act to please people? Actually, things don't work like that. Perhaps what you should be saying, it's time Raila sat down with these people and told them, look here, this is the position. This is where we have come from. This is why we made compromises. And this is why we have to stick with our partners. You may not understand it. He has to come clean. He has to at least to share with his team. Because as it were, many people are doubting now.
Yeah.
Many people are doubting. I have also thrown my doubts here and there. But I reserve. I reserve. Not because of Raila. No, of course, Raila is a good man.
Yeah.
I reserve because I haven't quite put my hand on the issue. But there's room for a question mark.
I think finally, the big question now is because there's going to be this dialogue. We've looked at the headliners from both sides, the like of Babu Wino and Alai on this other side that, don't like Uhuru's role in this thing. Are we going to look at a shift, a dynamic, a big shift in the political arrangement that is now because of this dialogue?
Yeah, there's going to be a big change. People are apprehensive, and not for nothing, from Kenya Kwanza especially. They know this thing could lead to bigger things, which will open space for other players, diminishing their role in government, making them sometimes even irrelevant. And I want to tell this to the people of this country, and especially to President Ruto and his people. And I've said it in the past 1 week or so. If they continue dilly-dallying, because I said they should not be clever. They think they are clever. And they are taking advantage of Raila's weakness. Because I must say it openly. There's a weakness on the part of Raila when it comes to negotiations.
Which they know.
They know, and they are taking advantage of.
Okay.
And then they are being clever. Somebody else will have the last laugh, not them. You know why? The longer this thing stays, the more complicated it becomes. And finally, even if people don't go to the streets, you wait until you see how civil society and other people will want to be part of this process, and they will mess it up. And even international forces. Finally, the only discussion that will be on the table is Nusu Mkate. So I'm advising these people who are taking advantage of this side and also thinking they are clever. It is in their interest to calm down. Sit down with Raila and his team and come up with a settlement. It will not affect their government. Let them stay long. Let them stay long and long and longer. Within 3 or so months, 6 months, the only discussion on the table is how to form a coalition government.
If you didn't watch Prof's video on Saturday, you go watch it about Nusu Mkate. They continue dilly-dallying. The conversation will be about power sharing. I don't know what you think about that. What's your take on the current dialogue? And you just tell me in the comment section until we do talk again. I hope you have yourself a lovely week ahead.